Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parishara Stochar Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Dai Gaur Pimanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 6, titled The Creation of the Universal Form. Text number 4. Prabuddha karma devena. Prabuddha karma devena. Trayo vimsatiko gana. Trayo vimsatiko gana. Prerito ajanayat swabir. Prerito ajanayat swabir. Matra Abhipurusam. Matra Adipurusam. Prabuddha karma devena. Trayo vimsatiko gana. Prerito ajanayat swabir. Matra Adipurusam. Prabuddha karma devena. Trayo vimsatiko gana. Prerito ajanayat swabir. Matra adipurusam. Prabuddha karma devena. Trayo vimsatiko gana. Prerito ajanayat swabir. Matra adipurusam. Word for word translation. Prabuddha, awakened. Karma, activities. Devena, by the will of the Supreme. Traya vimsatika, by the 23 principal ingredients. Gana, the combination. Prerita, induced by. Ajanayat, manifested. Swabi, by his personal. Matrabi, plenary expansion. Adipurusam, the gigantic universal form, Visvarupa. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. When the 23 principal elements were set in action by the will of the Supreme, the gigantic universal form, or the Visvarupa body of the Lord, came into existence. Purport. The Virat Rupa, or Visvarupa, the gigantic universal form of the Lord, which is very much appreciated by the impersonalists, is not an eternal form of the Lord. It is manifested by the supreme will of the Lord after the ingredients of mature creation. Lord Krishna exhibited this Virat or Visvarupa to Arjuna just to convince the impersonalists that he is the original personality of Godhead. Krishna exhibited the Virat Rupa. It is not that Krishna was exhibited by the Virat Rupa. The Virat Rupa is not therefore an eternal form of the Lord, exhibited in the spiritual sky. It is a material manifestation of the Lord. The Achara Vigraha, or the worshipable deity in the temple, is a similar manifestation of the Lord for the neophytes. But in spite of their material touch, such forms of the Lord as the Virat and Archa are all non-different from His eternal form as Lord Krishna. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksulmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you for everyone who's tuning in to Bhagavatam class today. So we just started a new chapter in Canto 3. It's titled The Creation of the Universal Form. I'll read the translation again. When the 23 principal elements were set in action by the will of the Supreme, the gigantic universal form or the Vishvarupa body of the Lord came into existence. So from this words onwards, we're going to be given more descriptions about this Virat Rupa or the universal form of the Lord. And Prabhupada in his purport today, is explaining how this Virat Rupa or this universal form of Lord is very much appreciated by the impersonalists. And this form is not an eternal form of the Lord. That's what Prabhupada is saying, firstly in the purport. Meaning, like we have the word avatar. The word avatar literally means that one who descends. So all these different avatars we see of the Lord, they are all actually eternal forms of the Lord. And these eternal forms are existing in the spiritual world. And when we say, okay, this particular avatar has come, we're talking about this particular form of the Lord is descending from the spiritual world to the material world. So it's not that Krishna just makes up this form just on the spot, but these forms of Lord Nrsimhadev, Varahadev, Vamanadev, these are all called avatars, which means these forms are eternally existing. So it's not that at a certain point in time they were created for a particular lila or activity. No, these forms are eternal. They're eternally existing in the spiritual world, and by the will of the Lord, when time comes, He descends in a particular form, and that's when it's called an avatar, or a particular form of the Lord that descends from the spiritual world to the material world. And Prabhupada, firstly in the purport, is establishing that this universal form, or this Virat Rupa, it's not like an avatar of the Lord. It's not an eternal form of the Lord. And actually, Prabhupada says in the purport later on that actually it's a material form or material manifestation of the Lord. So it's not something that's coming from the spiritual world like we see with avatars. So it's just a material manifestation of the Lord. And just to show how Krishna is all-pervading. Just like in Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, Krishna says, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina. That by me, in my all-pervasive aspect, I pervade the entire universe. And how does He do that? Krishna shows in actual real-life action in chapter 11 of the Bhagavad Gita, which Prabhupada is again quoting in the purport today, how this universal form was also displayed or shown in action by Krishna to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. So through this universal form, one can understand how Krishna is all-pervading, how this whole universe, everything in this universe, everything that we see, this whole material manifestation, it's all Krishna. That's why Prabhupada is explaining here that this Virat Rupa of the Lord is very much appreciated by the impersonalists. So it's something that the impersonalists, they meditate upon. They meditate upon this conception of how everything is Brahman, how everything is Krishna. But for the personalists, Prabhupada explains that, and also we see this in the Gita, Arjuna, he's a pure devotee of the Lord, and initially he sees the Virat Rupa, but later on he begs Krishna that please, can you come back to your two-handed form? This is what my heart is going towards. So for devotees of the Lord, they're not interested so much in this Virat Rupa or the universal form of the Lord. They want to see Krishna in His two-handed form. Why? Because when Krishna is there in His two-handed form, then we have an opportunity to serve. Prabhupada explains, if Krishna comes in Virat Rupa, how can we serve Him? He's so big and huge and so scary looking. Even Arjuna, when he saw the Virat Rupa in Bhagavad Gita, it's explained that he was going through two emotions. One was awe, reverence, wonder, that wow, so great. And the second emotion he was going through was fear. He was so afraid of seeing Krishna with so many mouths and hands and weapons. And so in that condition, how can one serve the Lord? Prabhupada explains, if Krishna comes as universal form, then how can we serve Him? How can we make a garland from Him if He's so big? So that's why Krishna, He comes as the Archa Vigraha as the deity form, so we can render loving service towards Krishna. And that way we can be satisfied, because that's the nature of the soul, is to engage in loving devotional service to Krishna. But for the impersonalists who don't believe in Krishna's form, we were hearing recently how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, he was explaining how one of the conceptions of Mayavadis and impersonalists is that they believe that Krishna's transcendental form is just an illusion, it's just illusory. So when Mayavadis, because they think like this, or impersonalists, that ultimately everything is one, there's no conception of personalities, for them this universal form is very attractive, of how, everything is Krishna, Krishna is everywhere. So for them they meditate on this Vishwarupa. So that's the first thing Prabhupada is saying here, the Virat Rupa or Vishwarup, the universal form of the Lord, which is very much appreciated by the impersonalist, is not an eternal form of the Lord. So it's not, as we explained, it's not like an avatar descending from the spiritual, but it's just a material manifestation of the Lord in the material world. Then next Prabhupada is saying, it is manifested by the supreme will of the Lord after the ingredients of material creation. Lord Krishna exhibited this Virat or Vishwarupa to Arjuna just to convince the impersonalists that he is the original personality Godhead. Krishna exhibited the Virat Rupa. It is not that Krishna was exhibited by the Virat Rupa. So now Prabhupada is talking about Bhagavad Gita, how Krishna, he showed the same Virat Rupa to Arjuna. And what was the reason? There's a few reasons. One is, one might ask, because Arjuna asked Krishna, can you please show me this universal form? Because in previous chapters he had heard from Krishna how Krishna is all-pervading, how everything is Krishna. At the end of chapter 10 he heard that whatever great things you see in this world, in this universe, it's all just coming from a spark of my splendor. And again, chapter 9, Krishna was explaining again, Maya Tatam Idam Sarvam, that I pervade everything. That Arjuna is thinking to future, that people in the future, they might say that Krishna is just glorifying himself, but where is the practical proof or the demonstration that Krishna is actually the Supreme Personal Godhead? Where is the proof that actually Krishna is everything, that this whole universe is created by him? So Arjuna, understanding this, he puts forward this question at the start of chapter 11 Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna, if you think I'm befitting to see, can you please show me or reveal to me your universal form? And the Acharyas explain, Prabhupada explains in his purpose that Arjuna, he is a pure devotee of Lord, he is just satisfied seeing Krishna's two-handed form, serving and relating with Krishna in devotional service. So this question that Arjuna asks is just simply for the benefit of mankind in the future, because Arjuna understands that in the future there will be many more imposters coming who are claiming to be God. Just like Krishna said, okay, I am this, I am that, there will be in the future also other people can come and also say, yeah, I'm God, everything is coming from me, I am the source of everything. So Arjuna, to establish Krishna's supremacy for the future, Arjuna asked Krishna, can you please show me your universal form? And he asked in a very nice mood. In the text that Arjuna asked, he asked in a very humble way that if you think I'm befitting to see, then please you reveal. And Prabhupada, he explains that this is the mood of the devotee. He never demands. Whenever he comes and prays to Krishna, he always prays in a mood of humble attitude. His service mood is always there. Just like when sometimes when Prabhupada, his health would be bit down, or Prabhupada, sometimes he had like a heart attack and things like that, and Prabhupada's advice, the devotees were asking Prabhupada, can we pray to Krishna, that Krishna cure you, because we need your association, you can't just leave us. And Prabhupada taught his disciples a prayer to offer to Krishna. Prabhupada said, yes, you can pray for me, but this is how you should pray. You should pray that, my Lord, if you so desire, then please let Swamiji stay, like that. So this is very important, if you so desire. So devotee, he never demands or commands anything from the Lord. He is always in the mood that, Krishna, if you so desire, can you please help me with this? So if you so desire, can you please help me with this? So in that humble mood, we learn that devotees, they always maintain the same mood that Arjuna is showing in Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada also taught his devotees to also have the same mood when we come and offer prayers to the Supreme Lord. So Arjuna, in this humble mood, he is asking Krishna that, Krishna, if you so desire, if you think it's okay, if you think it's appropriate, if you think it's okay, then can you please reveal this universal form? Then Krishna says, okay, I'll reveal to you. But Krishna says that I have to give you special vision. With your present eyes, you can't see this universal form. And the acharyas, they explain that when Krishna is saying to Arjuna that you need special eyes to see this universal form, it's not that Krishna is saying that, okay, Arjuna, your eyes at the moment are low, I need to give you spiritual eyes to see this form. It's actually the other way around. The acharyas explain, Arjuna is a pure, Nitya Siddha devotee of the Lord, so his eyes are already spiritualized. And his eyes are anointed with love of God. He is seeing Krishna face to face. He is eternally associated with Krishna. So when Krishna is saying that I need to give you special eyes to see this form of the Lord, or to see this universal form, what Krishna is actually saying is, Arjuna, I need to downgrade your vision. So usually we think that when Krishna is saying that you need special eyes to see this form, that Krishna is going to upgrade his vision, give him some special eyes to see. But Acharyas explain, it's the other way around. Arjuna, because he's a pure devotee of Lord, his eyes are anointed with love of God. He's just absorbed in seeing the two-handed form of the Lord. To make Arjuna see this Virat Rup, the Acharyas explain that Krishna, he has to downgrade Arjuna's vision to see this material manifestation of the Lord. So then Krishna, he downgrades Arjuna's vision, and then he reveals the universal form. And Krishna also says that in this form that I'm going to reveal to you, whatever you wanted to see, you'll see, and also other things, extra things I'll also show you. And later on we'll see what's that extra thing that Krishna shows from his own accord. Not only does Krishna show the Virat Rup, but at the end of 11th chapter we'll see that Krishna also shows his form as Kala Rup, or as time also. So initially Arjuna, he sees the Virat Rup with many thousands of mouths and hands and weapons, and so many verses describing the amazing Virat Rup of the Lord, the effulgence coming from the Virat Rup. Then it's explained, like when we were discussing this in Bhakti Shastri, Ghanshyam Prabhu, who was explaining that this Virat Rup, it's not like a personality. It's not like a person like Varahadev or Nrsimhadev or Krishna, Matsya. So it's not a personality, it's just like a revelation, like a 3D animated revelation that Arjuna is seeing, okay, how the whole universe is, everything is situated. So it's not like an actual personality. And this revelation of the universal form, we were discussing in Bhagavad Gita, initially it was just static, but later on Arjuna sees that the universal form, it starts becoming very dynamic. And then he sees himself and he sees all the soldiers on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And not only that, he sees how all these soldiers on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, they're all running into the blazing mouths of the Virat Rupa, all getting annihilated, all getting killed. So at that junction, when the universal form, instead of being static, it becomes very dynamic and it starts moving. And when you start seeing different soldiers entering these mouths and dying, at that moment, the Virat Rup transforms, or Krishna shows his Kala Rup also, or his form as time. Later on, Arjuna asks, who are you? And Krishna will explain, time I am, destroyer of the worlds. So at that moment, when the Virat Rup, from being static, it changes to something dynamic, where all the soldiers are going into its mouths, being annihilated, that's considered to be the Kala Rup of the Lord. So not only Arjuna was just asking to see the Virat Rup, but Krishna, as a bonus, he also shows him his Kala Rup, or his form as time, how time is destroying everything. So through his Kala Rup, Krishna shows how all the soldiers in the battle of Kurukshetra, they're all going to be annihilated during this battle, and only Arjuna and the Pandavas, they'll remain alive. So in this way, Krishna tells Arjuna, just be an instrument in this battle. As time, I've already destroyed all these soldiers. I've already won the battle for you. All these soldiers are destined to die. As time, I'm going to destroy all of them, except for you 5 Pandavas. All you have to do is just simply act as my instrument and take the credit, take the glory of fighting in the battle. So in this way, Krishna, he advises Arjuna. And there's some nice metaphors, 2 nice metaphors given in the 11th chapter. When Arjuna is seeing all these soldiers going into the mouth of the Virat Rup, it's given that for Arjuna, he was seeing them as just like rivers are entering into the ocean. In the same way, Arjuna was seeing these soldiers are all entering into the mouth of the Kala Rupa or Vishwarup. Another analogy Arjuna explains is just like moths, they go running, flying, being attracted by a fire, they go running and they jump into a fire and they get burnt and get annihilated. In the same way, I'm seeing all these great soldiers on the battlefield of Kurukshetra all going straight into your mouths, which are blazing with fire, all getting annihilated. And the Acharyas, they explain there's a special significance to these two metaphors that Arjuna is using. The metaphor of the moths running into the fire, the Acharyas explain that's compared to the non-devotee soldiers on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, like Karna, Duryodhan. And there's two things the Acharyas explain that this metaphor represents. One is moths, initially they're alive and healthy and they look very active, but they come running into the fire, and what happens after they jump into the fire? After they jump into the fire, the moths, they die and their body gets burned to ashes. The moth just becomes a pile of ashes. So the Acharyas explain this represents the non-devotees, that although externally they might look very happy, very opulent, with a lot of wealth, fame, reputation, and a lot of material possessions, but because they haven't taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, their possession is just like these moths, that initially they look very fit and healthy, but when they come and get devoured by the blazing fire, in the same way the non-devotees, externally they look very opulent and having a good time in this material world due to their past karma, but when Krishna comes in his Kala Rup as at the time of death and they lose their material body, then the next destination they're going to get is going to be of something very low. Either they'll go to the lower species of life or they'll go to the hellish planets. Just like for a moth, initially is looking very happy, but then after it's burned it becomes just a pile of useless ashes. In the same way, these non-devotees, just for the time being, due to a good karma, they seem to be having a good time. But at the time of death, they'll be degraded into some of the lower species or to the hellish planets. So that's the first comparison the Acharyas give. Another point the Acharyas explain what we can learn from this analogy in relation to the non-devotees is how non-devotees, just like a moth going and jumping into a fire and getting burnt up, what is the value of that? There's no value. It's not doing any good for himself, it's committing suicide, and it's not doing any good for the rest of the world or any other living entities. So the moth's action of jumping into the fire is useless both for himself and useless for others. In the same way, the Acharyas explain that the actions of non-devotees or the actions of the karmis, they're useless for themselves, they aren't benefiting themselves. Instead, by their particular actions or their karma, they're creating future material bodies, either in lower species or in the hellish planets. So the non-devotees' actions is neither beneficial from themselves and it's neither beneficial for other living entities. So in this way, the Acharyas explain that the analogy Arjuna uses of moths rushing into the fire, this refers to non-devotees like Karna and Duryodhan. The second analogy Arjuna uses is that of river. Just like a river goes rushing into the ocean, in the same way I'm seeing all great warriors rushing into your mouth of this Kala Rupa or this Vishwa Rupa. This second analogy, the Acharyas explain, it refers to devotees of the Lord, like Bhishma Dev on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. These devotees will also die or give up their body on the battlefield, but their destination is not the same as these non-devotees. The Acharyas explain, just like the water in a river, it's always maintaining its constant position. Even if the water gets evaporated by the sun and the water leaves the river, it still goes up into the cloud and the water is still maintaining its same constituted position of being water. And at the time, the water will again fall down from the clouds back to the ground. So in the same way, the Acharyas explain that although it looks externally like great warriors like Bhishma Dev, that they're being annihilated in this battlefield of Kurukshetra, still their position is unchanged. Currently they're serving Krishna in this material world. After they die, they'll go to a spiritual world and they continue serving. So for devotees, As Lord Shiva explains, Narayana Parasarve na kutaschana bibhyati swarga pavarga narakesu apitoyata darshana. For devotees, whether they're here or in heaven or the hellish planets, it doesn't make a difference. Wherever the devotees are, they engage in serving the Lord. So in the same way, this analogy of rivers rushing through the ocean, the Acharyas explain, it refers to great devotees like Bhishma Dev. Although externally it looks like they're being annihilated, still for them it doesn't make a change. Currently they're serving Krishna in their capacity in this battlefield. After they die, they'll get another body somewhere else and they continue serving Krishna. And the second point we can learn is the Acharyas explain, just like rivers, they're flowing into the ocean you can take as Krishna. So just like rivers are constantly flowing through Krishna, same way devotees' minds or all their actions, their very life energy is always flowing towards Krishna. But as the river flows to the ocean, on the banks of the river nourishes different vegetation, plants, and creepers along the way to the ocean. So just like a river, along its path towards the ocean, on its banks it gives nourishment and life to so many different trees and plants. In the same way the Acharyas explain that devotees on their path back home, back to Godhead, on their path back home, back to the spiritual world, not only are they working for themselves, but they're working for the benefit of other living entities. Just like a river, before going or merging into the ocean, entering into the ocean, it gives life and energy to different plants and trees. The Acharyas explain, same way devotees, through their lives, before they leave their body and go back home, back to Godhead, through their lives they assist and help others also get spiritually nourished. And this is what Mahaprabhu has also taught us. And Krishna, he himself has instructed us. In CC, Mahaprabhu instructs us, Yara Deko Tariko, Krishna Pradesh, Amar Ajna Guru Hoy, Tara Desh. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing that whoever you meet, you talk to them about Krishna, you give them spiritual benefit. And Krishna also, he tells the same thing to his cowherd boys in Vrajalila. One time, Krishna, who would observe the trees in Vrindavan, and he was telling his cowherd boyfriends that just see these trees of Vrindavan. These trees are more glorious than, all these so-called smarta brahmanas that we see. This is just before the pastime of the Yagnik brahmanas. So we know the story of the Yagnik brahmanas. They were doing the ritualistic sacrifice. Krishna's cowherd boys, they come and ask for food, and the brahmanas, they're so absorbed in their ritualistic yagnas, they just completely ignored the cowherd boys. And Krishna, during this pastime of the trees, he's explaining that these trees are much more better than these brahmanas who are engaged in ritualistic activities. Just see how glorious these trees are. These trees are living simply for the benefit of our living entities. The trees are giving food, the trees are giving shelter, the trees are tolerating all, harsh winds, sunlight, cold wind, and while tolerating all these things, the tree is giving shelter and food for all different living entities. The tree is giving its bark, the tree is giving its roots, the tree is giving its leaves and twigs and branches. The tree is giving shelter from sunshine, from the cold, from rain, sap, honey from the trunk of the tree. In this way, in so many different ways, the tree is simply living for the benefit of others. So in this way, Krishna, he glorifies the trees of Vrindavan, and he tells or establishes that being a tree like this in Vrindavan is much better than being a very puffed up ritualistic brahmana who is simply just engaged in ritualistic religious activities just for his own benefit, completely ignoring the benefit of other living entities. And this way Krishna establishes that anyone who has this human form of life, Krishna tells his cowherd boys, that anyone who has this human form of life, it is his duty to use his life, prana, artha, diya, vacha, to use his life energy, his artha, his money, diya, to use his intelligence, and vacha, to use his speech for the benefit or for the sake of other living entities. One shouldn't live a selfish lifestyle. In this way, Krishna, he instructs his cowherd boyfriends. So the same thing that Acharyas explained, that this analogy that Arjuna uses, that I see all these warriors rushing into your mouth, just like rivers are rushing into the ocean. The Acharyas explain this refers to the great devotees, that just like rivers, they nourish the different vegetations on the side. In the same way, pure devotees, along the way back to Godhead, they're nourishing or they're giving spiritual benefit to many conditioned souls. So in this way, the description is given of the Virat Rupa in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And later on, Arjuna, he asks Krishna, or he requests that, please can you come back to your two-handed form of the Lord. And in his purports, Prabhupada explains that for devotees, they're not very much interested in seeing this Virat Rup of the Lord, because this Virat Rup is just a mature manifestation of the Lord and there's no opportunity of service. The nature of devotee or the devotee's mood is to just be engaged in loving service to the Lord. That's all a devotee wants. As long as the devotee has service to the Lord, the devotee is happy and satisfied. And because in Virat Rup manifestation there's no opportunity of service, so Arjuna he requests. And then Krishna he comes as his two-handed form. And first he comes, he shows his four-handed form, and then Krishna he comes back again to his two-handed form. And the important point Prabhupada is explaining here in the purport, that Lord Krishna exhibited this Virat or Vishwarupa to Arjuna just to convince the impersonalists that he is the original personality Godhead. Krishna exhibited Virat Rupa. It is not that Krishna was exhibited by the Virat Rupa. So Prabhupada here is explaining that one reason why Krishna he manifested this universal form to Arjuna was just to convince the impersonalists or the Mayavadis that actually this Virat Rup is actually coming from me only. Because initially there was two-handed Krishna, then Krishna shows the universal form, then again Krishna comes back to the two-handed form. So this Virat Rup is a manifestation coming from Krishna. And Prabhupada is writing here, Krishna exhibited the Virat Rupa. It is not that Krishna was exhibited by the Virat Rupa. So it's not that initially there was Virat Rupa and then Virat Rupa changed his form to a two-handed form and showed that two-handed form to Arjuna. No. Krishna is the original and Krishna manifests this particular vision. And then Krishna again, he goes back to four-handed form again to show that not only is this Virat Rupa a manifestation of me, but also this four-handed form, I am also the original source of this four-handed form. So in this way, by logic, Prabhupada establishes that Krishna, one of the reasons he exhibited this Virat Rupa is to teach them personalists that the Brahman, this whole, the concept that you're analyzing, how Brahman is pervading everything, the whole Virat Rupa of how Krishna is everything, it's actually all a manifestation of Krishna. Then Prabhupada goes on to explain the purport. The Virat Rupa is not therefore an eternal form of the Lord exhibited in the spiritual sky. It is a material manifestation of Lord. Okay, so we discussed this earlier, how this Virat Rupa is not coming from the spiritual sky. Just like avatars, they're eternal forms of the Lord. They're eternally present in the spiritual world. Lord Nrsimhadev, he has his own planet in the spiritual world. Varahadev, he has his own planet in the spiritual world. Lord Buddha, he has his own planet in the spiritual world. So all these different avatars, they're all eternal forms of Lord which are present in the spiritual sky, and at a particular time, for a particular lila, they descend down. And this Virat Rupa is not like that, Prabhupada is explaining. It's not an eternal form of the Lord, it's a temporary form of the Lord, and it's a mature manifestation of the Lord. Then Prabhupada explains that the Acha Vigraha, or the worshipable deity in the temple, is a similar manifestation of the Lord for the neophytes. But in spite of their material touch, such forms of the Lord as the Virat and Archa are all non-different from his eternal form as Lord Krishna. So the last section of purport, Prabhupada goes on to talk about the Acha Vigraha, or the deity form of the Lord. Before we go into that, another similar universal form or vision, you can say, I was reading recently, is in 8th canto Bhagavatam. If you remember the pastime of Bali Maharaj and Lord Vamanadev, he asked for 3 paces of land in charity. And Bali Maharaj, when he sees, it's mentioned that when Lord Vamanadev, he was walking into the assembly where the sacrifice was going on, he was explaining it was just like a sun rising on the eastern horizon. He was so effulgent that his effulgence just completely outshone the effulgence of all the other personalities assembled in that sacrifice. And seeing this super effulgent personality approaching towards them, everyone is just completely astonished. Who is this great personality? Is it the fire god? Is it the sun god himself who has come to see the sacrifice? Everyone's just bewildered and in awe and reverence, seeing the wonderful Brahman effulgence coming from Lord Vamanadev. So immediately, out of respect, everyone just stands up. And everyone understands, okay, it's some great personality that's coming. And Bali Maharaj, with all humility, he comes and washes Lord Vamanadev's feet, and he gives him a proper reception as it's custom in Vedic culture. And then he tells Vamanadev that, please ask for anything in charity, whatever you ask, I will fulfill. So in this way, Bali Maharaj, he offers himself as Lord Vamanadev's servant, and he says, ask me anything in charity, I'll give you whatever you want. You want land, you want money, you want riches, even if you want a girl to be your wife, you can ask me, whatever you want, you can ask me in charity, I will give you. And Vamanadev, he says, just want 3 paces of land, that's all I want. And then Bali Maharaj is surprised, is astonished, and he's saying that externally you look to be a son of a Brahmana, but I think because you're very young, you seem to be very immature. You seem to not really know what is your best self-interest. What can you achieve with just 3 paces of land? It sees that because you're small and young, you don't know what your real self-interest is. Please, you can ask for more. What good can 3 paces of land be? Then Vamanadev, he instructs to Bali Maharaj that if I weren't satisfied with 3 steps of land, then I wouldn't even be satisfied with all the 3 worlds. And Lord Vamanadev, he gives a very beautiful series of instructions about how one should be satisfied with just the bare necessities of life. And Prabhupada in his purports, he explains that this verses that Vamanadev is explaining is particularly directed to brahmacharis and sannyasis, how when they get something in charity, they should only accept in charity that which is enough for their sustenance. They should never accept more in charity. If they happen to get extra in charity, they should immediately give it away, back in charity. So in this way, Prabhupada explains this is a lesson to brahmacharis and sannyasis, that when we should only accept in charity what is essential for us. We should never accept more. And Vamanadev, he continues on to explain that even if you give me a whole island, or a whole dvipa, or a whole planet, still, if I weren't satisfied with that island, my mind, because it's uncontrolled, or if the mind is not controlled, it will calculate to get more islands or more planets. So in this way, uncontrolled mind, one whose senses are uncontrolled, one whose mind is uncontrolled, he'll never be satisfied. Even if he has a whole planet, even if he has the whole universe, still he won't be satisfied. Still he'll want more and more and more, because his mind is uncontrolled. Classical example of this is Hiranyakashipu. He literally had the whole universe under his control. But Bhagavatam explains, even after having the whole universe, Hiranyakashipu was frustrated, he was angry, he wasn't happy. So in this way, Vamanadev, he instructs Bali Maharaj that one should be satisfied with just the bare necessities of life, one shouldn't ask for anything more. And so I'm just happy with these 3 paces of land, this is enough for me, I don't want more, this is enough. Then, okay, Bali Maharaj says, okay, I'll give you. At this time, we know the whole past from Sukracharya, he comes, interrupts, telling him, oh, this is only Vishnu, he is coming to steal away your land, don't give him in charity. And Sukracharya gives him different points from Shastras, misquoting Shastras, gives him different instructions that according to Shastra, when your life is in danger, you can lie. According to Shastra, to protect your wealth, you can do this. In emergency, you can lie. So break your promise, don't do this. And then it's a long series of verses. And then Bali Maharaj analyzes and he thinks that the position of a guru is that a guru should be taking me closer towards Krishna. If someone is going against the principle of Vishnu Bhakti, then that person is not a guru, according to the Shastra. So then Bali Maharaj, he rejects the instructions of his so-called guru. As we know from 5th canto of Bhagavatam, Rishabdev, he says that Guru Nasasya, Pita Nasasya, that the qualification, someone should only become a spiritual master, a father, a mother, a relative, or a worshipable deity, only if he is able to deliver the dependent from the clutches of mature existence and take them back home, back to the spiritual world. So when Bali Maharaj notices that his guru, instead of taking him closer towards Krishna, is taking him away from Krishna, then Bali Maharaj, he understands, okay, now he's not actually taking the position of actual guru, I have to reject him. And for the sake of Krishna, for the sake of Krishna's pleasure, I have to sacrifice everything. And Bali Maharaj, he goes on, and he gives Bali Maharaj, he gives Lord Vamanadev in charity. And after he rejects Sukracharya, and he gives in charity to Lord Vamanadev, then it's explained that Lord Vamanadev, then he shows a similar, like Virat Rup, or a universal form of him. He immediately expands into a huge form, and Bali Maharaj, he sees the whole universe in this form of Lord Vamanadev. The entire universe, from the lower planetary system to the higher planetary system, he sees the whole universe situated in this form of Lord Vamanadev. And in the purport, Prabhupada explains one nice point about what Lord Vamanadev is trying to teach Bali Maharaj by showing this Virat Rup. Prabhupada explains that Lord Vamanadev is indirectly telling Bali Maharaj that, you had so much pride in you that I am such a great Kshatriya, that I am the ruler of the three worlds, I have so much wealth, ask me anything you want in charity, I will give you whatever you want. You had so much pride, but now look and just see. This whole universe which you thought you were the controller, this whole universe which you thought was under your control, this whole universe is actually my own body. This whole universe is situated in my body, this whole universe is actually me only. So what can you actually give me in charity? This whole universe is me, the lower planetary system, the middle planetary system, the higher planetary systems, earth, water, fire, air, ether, the sun planet, the moon planet, the wind, the senses, the trees, the mountains. Everything in this universe is me only. Everything is situated in my body. So what can you actually give in charity? You have nothing of your own, everything is me. So in this way, Prabhupada explains that the lesson we can learn from this is that we should never think or become proud of our material possessions. We should always understand that whatever we have with us is actually Krishna's only. And we're just borrowing it. And when we're giving in charity, we should never become puffed up that, okay, I'm giving my hard-earned wealth, or I'm giving this to Krishna, I'm giving this in donation or charity to this person, that person. No, everything is actually Krishna's. So there's nothing actually that we can offer to Krishna. Whatever we have is already Krishna's. But Prabhupada, he gives the example just like Mother Ganga. When one goes to take bath in the Ganges river, one takes bath, and then after taking bath, one takes some Ganges water in his hand, and he offers a prayer to Ganga that, Mother Ganga, you're so pure, there's nothing I can do for you, except offer the same pure water back to yourself. That's the best I can do for you. So in the same way, everything around us is Krishna, whatever we have is Krishna's. So just like Prabhupada, another example he'll give, just like a child. It's his father's birthday or mother's birthday, but the child doesn't have money, so he'll borrow some money from his parents. Mom, Dad, can I please have $5? I want to buy something. The parents say, okay, take $5. And the child will go, take the $5, go to some shop, buy a gift and come and offer to his parents. And the parents will be so happy, oh wow, such a nice gift you bought for me. But that $5, where is it coming from? It's not like the child went out and worked, and with hard work and endeavor, he earned the $5 himself. No, the $5 is coming from the parents only. So the parents only, they gave the hard-earned money to the child. The child is just using the $5 to give some present. But the parents, they're not thinking that, what is this, my child, he's using my own money to buy a gift and he's feeling so proud, what is this? He should go out and work himself and get some money. No, the parents, they feel very happy to see. And they feel their love increase for the child. So in the same way, on one hand we understand that everything we have is actually Krishna's. We can't do anything for Krishna. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that we don't render service to Krishna. Because what Krishna is looking for our love and devotion. As Krishna, Prabhupada explains in the 9th chapter, in that verse, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhakti Prayachati Tadaham Bhakti Upahritam Asnami Prayatatmana. So in this verse, Prabhupada explains that Krishna, he uses the word bhakti twice, just to emphasize the point that all I'm wanting, all I'm desiring for is bhakti. All I'm desiring for is the love and affection of my devotees. Just like the parents, they just want the love of their children. The same way Krishna, he's just looking for our love. So our so-called material possessions, Prabhupada explains, we shouldn't become proud that, okay, I'm giving this in charity, or I'm giving this, or I'm doing this service or that service. We should understand that whatever possessions we have, whatever wealth we have, whatever abilities or talents we have, it's all coming from Krishna. It's all gifts of Krishna, but we are engaging in Krishna's service for Krishna's pleasure. So this is one lesson Prabhupada explains we can learn from the 8th canto during that vision of the universal form. Another one is we see in the 10th canto when Mother Yashoda, she gets a vision of the whole universe in Krishna's mouth. And at that time, as we all know, the pastime Krishna, there was a complaint about Krishna from his cowherd mates, and even Balram, even he himself also complained to Mother Yashoda. And Mother Yashoda, she immediately became worried that, they are saying that Krishna has eaten dirt. If Krishna is actually eaten dirt, this will be bad for Krishna's health. And Mother Yashoda immediately comes to Krishna and says, have you actually eaten dirt? All your friends are saying Even Balram is saying, and Balram never lies. Even your elder brother, Balram, even he's saying that you've eaten dirt. And Krishna says, no, mother, that all these all of my friends, they're just ganging up on me, it's all a conspiracy. Actually, I didn't eat dirt. Then Mother Yasoda says, but what about Balram? Even Balram is saying. And Mother Yasoda is saying, and then Krishna, he says in return that, yes, even Balram is ganging up on me. We had some fight, or there's some conspiracy against me. Everyone is going against me. You don't believe them. If you still don't believe me, then, I'll open my mouth, you can see me. You can see inside my mouth yourself and see the truth for yourself. This way Krishna very confidently, he boasts to Mother Yasoda. And Mother Yasoda says, okay, open your mouth. So Krishna is explained, he didn't actually think Mother Yasoda will actually ask him to open his mouth. Then Krishna, he opens his mouth, and Mother Yasoda, she gets a vision of the entire universe in Krishna's mouth. And along with the universe, she sees herself and Krishna also in that vision. And in the 8th canto, when Bali Maharaj, he sees the vision of the universe also in the form of Lord Vamadev, similar thing is there. Bali Maharaj, he also sees himself in the Virat Rupa also. And same with the Virat, with the universal form in 11th chapter Bhagavad Gita, it's explained that Arjuna, he also sees himself and along with all the other warriors in the Virat Rupa also. So when Mother Yasoda, she sees the vision of the universal form, not exactly the universal form that Arjuna is saying, Prabhupada explains, it's just like the universe. But when Mother Yasoda, she sees this, it's explained in Bhagavatam, she becomes completely bewildered. And she starts analyzing herself, that how is this happening? Am I dreaming? And Mother Yasoda, she thinks that, no, I'm awake. She pinches herself and she thinks, no, I'm actually awake, I'm not dreaming, I'm not sleeping. Okay, it's not a dream. Then secondly, she thinks, am I hallucinating? Am I, being delirious? Sometimes when we get very fatigued, we start imagining different things. And then she thinks, no, I'm actually pretty fit and healthy, my health is good, I don't have a fever or I don't have any sickness, I'm pretty healthy and strong. So it can't be a hallucination. It's not because of due to some sickness, I'm imagining some, vision. Then she thinks that maybe it's the demigods playing some trick upon me. But then she rules that out also. She thinks that why would the demigods come and play around with ordinary women like me? So, although she's the mother of Supreme Personal Godhead, from her vision, she's thinking of herself as just an ordinary cowherd lady on planet Earth. So she's thinking the demigods, they're there in Swarga Loka. I'm just an ordinary, insignificant cowherd lady in just some tiny village in Bharat Varsha. Why would the demigods come and mess around with me? Why would the demigods come and play some trick on me? So it's not the demigods. So like this, the Acharyas explain, Mother Yasoda, she's calculating different things. That is it the demigods, is it I'm dreaming, or is it some hallucination? Like this, she's going through different reasons of what she's actually seeing. In the end, she just gives up. She can't figure out how this is happening, why it's happening, what is the cause of this. Then what does she do? Bhagavatam explains that at the end, when she can't figure out what's happening, she just comes and bows down to Lord Vishnu and just offers praise to Vishnu. That Vishnu, you're the Supreme Lord, you're the Supreme Master. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening to my little boy. I'm taking shelter of your lotus feet. You please protect my little Krishna. You please make sure nothing happens to him. And in the purport to this verse, Prabhupada explains that from Mother Yasoda, we should learn this important point. That many times in life, there will be challenging circumstances and we'll try to solve that situation using our own intelligence. We'll try different things. Okay, maybe we'll approach this problem through this direction and it won't work, then we'll try another tactic. Maybe we'll try it from this direction or that direction. And we'll, despite our repeated endeavors to solve a problem or fix up a situation, we just won't be able to fix it. And nothing will work out. And in that situation, which Mother Yasoda is going through, Prabhupada explains, what one should do, just like Mother Yasoda, she's coming to a point where she's understanding, okay, I can't figure out what's happening. She's just coming in front of the deity of the Lord and just offering obeisances and just leaving it up to Krishna. That Krishna, I don't know what's happening, I'm taking shelter of your lotus feet, you please protect my dear son. In the same way Prabhupada explains, sometimes in life we'll come across situations like this, where despite repeated endeavors, we are unable to solve the problem. At such situations, we should just come, offer obeisances in front of Radha Gopinath, and just put forward the problem towards them. That Krishna, this is happening, I tried to solve it, I tried getting help from others, nothing is working out. You're the Supreme Lord, you please take care of it. And that way, Prabhupada says, you just leave it up to Krishna, and Krishna will take care. Similar instruction Prabhupada gives in Vrindavan. In the Krishna Balaram temple, Prabhupada instructs that any problem you have, you just come in front of Krishna Balaram and you tell Krishna Balaram that, my dear lords, this is the problem I have. My dear sir, this is the problem I have. You please fix it. You please help me. So in this way, this is another lesson we can learn from the universal vision that Mother Yasoda, she gets in the 10th canto Bhagavatam. And the last line of the Prabhupada explains, the Archa Vigraha, or the worshipable deity in the temple, is a similar manifestation of the Lord for the neophytes. When Prabhupada is saying that the deity in the temple of Lord is for the neophytes, we shouldn't mistakenly think that only neophytes should worship the deity of the Lord, and when one becomes advanced, okay, then they're aloof from deity worship. It's not like that. If we look into the lives of all of our great acharyas, they engaged in deity worship. And like our 6 Goswamis, the primary followers Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, each one of the 6 Goswamis, they had their own particular deity which they worship, and they established a particular, very beautiful, grand temple for their particular deity. And not only did they worship the deity, not only did they establish the temple, but they also established different standards for the deity worship for future generations to go on. Sanatan Goswami, Madan Mohan, Didi, Rupa Goswami, Govindaji. In this way, all of our Goswamis, all the acharyas, they had their own Istadev, they had their own deity which they worshipped. They established a temple for, established standards, so in the future generations, devotees will continue on with the deity worship. Also in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Nectar Devotion, Mahaprabhu himself, he instructs Rupa Goswami that out of all the different items of devotional service, we know there's 64 different items of devotional service. Mahaprabhu explains that out of all of the 64, there is 5 which is said to be the most powerful. Now, out of the 5, deity worship is one of them. Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtana Bhagavata Shavana Mathura Vasa Shrimutura Shadaya Sevana Sarva Sadhana Sestra E Pancha Anga Krishna Prema Judai E Alpa Sangha. So Mahaprabhu explains, out of these 64 items of devotional service I explained to you, 5 of them are said to be Sarva Sadhana Seshta E Panchanga. Out of all these different sadhanas, there's 5 which are said to be the most complete, the most powerful. Sadhu Sangha, Nama Kirtana, holy name, Bhagavata Shravana, hearing Bhagavatam, Krishna Katha, residing in a holy place of pilgrimage, and engaging in worshiping the deity form of the Lord. And Mahaprabhu explains that these 5 forms of devotional service are so powerful that Krishna Prema Judai E Alpa Sangha, that just by alpa, just by a little focus, little endeavor in any one of these 5 is enough to give one Krishna Prema. So just a little endeavor in engaging in deity worship, or little endeavor in chanting the holy name of the Lord, or little sincerity and effort in hearing Bhagavad Gita, Mahaprabhu says, just by focusing a little bit, one can get Krishna Prema. So that's how powerful it is. So in this way, when Prabhupada says that this Archa Vigraha, worshipable deity of the Lord, is a manifestation for the neophytes, we shouldn't mistake it that deity worship is only for neophytes, and after a few years when we become senior devotees, we can stop coming to temple and we can just stay at home and just focus on other things. No. Throughout our whole life, we need to, in other purports, Prabhupada explains that sometimes this argument or this thought comes that in Kali Yuga, the practice is chanting the holy name of the Lord, Sankirtan. Then why should we engage in deity worship? And in his purports, Prabhupada, to answer this, he quotes Jiva Goswami. Both in Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada quotes Jiva Goswami, and he explains, quoting Jiva Goswami, that Jiva Goswami says that yes, it's true that Sankirtan is the Yuga Dharma. Yes, it's true that simply focusing on the Bhagavat mark of hearing and chanting about Krishna, one can go back home, back to Godhead. That yes, holy name alone is enough to take us back home, back to Godhead. But, Jiva Goswami explains, still, the contamination of Kali Yuga is so strong that in general, people's minds are so polluted and contaminated that they need, or it's essential for them to also take shelter of deity worship, to purify their minds. And therefore Prabhupada explains that Jiva Goswami, he recommends that one does both. One simultaneously follows the Bhagavad mark of hearing and chanting by Krishna, and also takes shelter of the Pancharitri Vidhi of engaging in deity worship. In this way Prabhupada explains that Jiva Goswami, his Guru Maharaj Bhaktisaranta Saraswati Thakur, they both recommended that one does both side by side. One does Sankirtan, chanting the holy name of the Lord. One studies Bhagavatam, Krishna Katha, but at the same time one engages in deity worship to purify his contaminated consciousness. In that context, Prabhupada is saying it's important for neophytes to engage in deity worship, because initially everyone's mind is contaminated, and that's one of the beauty of deity worship. When one engages in deity worship, it very much purifies the mind, because you get so much positive samskar. You're coming and taking darshan, Radha Gopinath, you engage in serving them. That creates a very powerful samskar in the mind, and it's very purifying for our consciousness. So in that context, Prabhupada is saying it's important in the beginning, but it's not that only in the beginning we do, but throughout our whole lives we should be engaged in worshipping Radha Gopinath. Okay, we'll stop here. Gantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. If there's any questions or comments before we wrap up? Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes, so the question is that Prahlad Maharaj, he was born as a demon, but by association Narad Muni he became a devotee. So the question is about Bali Maharaj, about how did he become a devotee. So in one purport, Prabhupada explains, it's in 8th canto, Prabhupada explains about how Bali Maharaj, he ended up becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. In that purport, Prabhupada explains, there is sadhana siddhi and kripa siddhi. Sadhana siddhi is one becomes perfected by engaging in sadhana bhakti, following on the rules and regulations strictly, and by one's own sincere practice in devotional service, one becomes a pure devotee. Kripa siddhi is when one becomes a pure devotee of the Lord by some special mercy bestowed upon him, either by another devotee of the Lord or by Krishna himself. So due to some special kripa or mercy coming from the Lord directly or coming from a devotee of the Lord, one can immediately become a pure devotee. And Prabhupada, in that purport, he gives example of kripa siddhis, who are some devotees who are classified as kripa siddhis. Prabhupada, he gives the example of yagnapatis, the wives of the brahmanas, the yagnik brahmanas in Krishna book, the brahmanas who refuse to give charity to the cowherd boys. Prabhupada says their wives are examples of kripa siddhis. And Prabhupada says Sukadeva Goswami, he is also an example of a kripa siddha. And Prabhupada says Bali Maharaj, he is an example of a devotee who attained pure devotional status by kripa of a devotee of the Lord. And Prabhupada says in Bali Maharaj's case, he became a kripa siddha. So you can become kripa siddha by special mercy either from a devotee of Krishna or from Krishna. Prabhupada says Bali Maharaj, he got both. Initially he got the special mercy from Prahlad Maharaj, his grandfather. So it's not that during Bali Maharaj's time, Bali Maharaj never got association of his grandfather, Bali Maharaj, his grandfather Prahlad Maharaj. When Bali Maharaj was bound up, Prahlad Maharaj, he came. And he was there present in that assembly. And it's mentioned before Bali Maharaj, he fought with the demons. Prahlad Maharaj had come and given a garland, eternal garland of flowers which would never fade. So Bali Maharaj, he had constant contact